Good morning. It is Thursday. We're a little bit later than usual. It's been a rough morning. But we're on our way now. Time to start the day. And time to talk about Mage. And we're in for another tradition today. Today we're going to talk about the Order of Hermes. And it's going to get a bit more wide-ranging than it normally does. And I'll get to why in a minute. But first, the Order of Hermes. They hold the seat of forces in the 9 traditions. They are one of the oldest and most formal houses of the traditions. Their house is what the 9 traditions were originally based on. Now that's interesting in and of itself. How do they work magic? They are all about seeking the perfection of knowledge and the power hidden within things. Examples. Magic within words. Words have power. Using the right words together at the right time makes magic. Using the right runes and symbols together with words makes magic. Using the right arithmetic and words, or just arithmetic on its own, can make magic. Now, if you start thinking about that, words making magic, what are we talking about? We're talking about what most games refer to as spellcasting. These guys are your typical mages. If you wanted to build Harry Potter in the world of darkness, he would be Order of Hermes. The whole idea of the school that he goes to with the different houses and what, I don't really follow Harry Potter, sorry, but I know that he goes to a school, and I know that there are different houses within the school that each have their own distinct personality. That's the Order of Hermes. There are many, many divisions. There are many houses within the Order of Hermes, and each has their own specialty. You could almost say that each one could be an order of its own. And that division of their houses is where the division of the 9 traditions came from. Now, this is where I'm going to lose some people. Because if you want to look up the Order of Hermes, and you want to really dig into their background, I'm going to tell you, don't look up mage books. Don't. Just don't. Don't look for mage books about the Order of Hermes. I mean, yeah, they've got an Order of Hermes tradition book, and they've got a few books about them, but just don't. Don't. If you want to learn about the Order of Hermes, I want you to look up a game called Ars Magica. A-R-S, and then magic with an A on the end. Ars Magica. Why do I want you to look up Ars Magica? Because that's what the Order of Hermes is. Now, I'm not being figurative in this. If you look at the Order of Hermes, and you look at their list of houses, you've got House Flambeau, House Quasitor, House Bonasagus, House Tremere, I'll come back to House Tremere in a minute. But why am I listing these houses? Because if you go get a copy of Ars Magica, you're going to see House Quasitor, House Flambeau, House Bonasagus, House Tremere. Same houses. Same ones. Why? History lesson. There was a point in time when Ars Magica and Mage were owned by the same people and had a lot of the same staff working on them. This was before the Mage Dark Ages line, or even the Mage Sorcerer's Crusade line, ever started. These same people were writing Ars Magica and Mage. Ars Magica is set historically in the time period that you would now think of for Mage the Sorcerer's Crusade or Mage Dark Ages. So when they were designing the traditions, they thought it would be cool to carry over the characters from Ars Magica and say, ambulance coming up behind me. They thought it would be really cool to say, this is what happens to the mages from the Middle Ages when they get to the modern day. And so they included the houses from Ars Magica as one of the 9 traditions. They picked up all of the backstory and advanced it forward a couple hundred years. So, instead of looking up the book that Mage has about the Order of Hermes, why not look up Ars Magica and look up the book about House Flambeau or the book about House Quasitor and get the actual root of where that came from? You know, my character is not just a typical Order of Hermes, you know, I'm going to stand there and cast spells. No, this guy comes out of the tradition of House Flambeau. This guy comes out of a tradition of mages that years before Paradox was ever a thing, used to burn their way across the countryside as part of their initiation rites. And yes, that's House Flambeau. Basically, they would get dropped off in the middle of nowhere somewhere. They would have to get back to their master's location, and most of them would do it by setting everything in between the two on fire. Well, you know, they weren't discreet. You know, the Quasitors. House Quasitor was the enforcers of the law of the mages. They were the ones who would come and arrest other mages for breaking the rules, for not doing things the correct way. All of this theme, all of this background, all of this information about these houses that goes so deep, you're going to find all of it in Ars Magica, not Mage. But even though they don't own the system anymore, I'm telling you, use the Ars Magica stuff. The background of it, the history of it, they just tell you so much more. And I laugh every time I look at the Order of Hermes and Mage now, because they've changed it like they think that, well, like they think we're idiots. You know, I've actually seen references to Ars Hermeticus. Really? You didn't even change? Yeah. But they don't own the rights to Ars Magica anymore, so they had to change it. So now they can't. Their history was the Ars Hermeticus. Yeah, okay, whatever. Now, I said I would come back to Tremere, that they were a bit different. And that's because you've probably, if you've ever played World of Darkness, heard of Tremere, but not as a mage. You see, House Tremere no longer exists within the Order of Hermes, because House Tremere is now Clan Tremere, the vampires. I'm not going to go into the entire history of the Blood War, but suffice it to say that the founder of House Tremere got himself a bit of a bite problem, and he took the rest of his house with him. He got afflicted and he shared the love. And to this day, this is why, if you play Vampire, you will know that House Tremere are the vampires that have blood magic. Why do they have blood magic? Well, as an undead creature, they cannot work hermetic magic anymore. It doesn't respond to them the same way. But through decades of study, Tremere managed to find a new way of working magic. He wanted to get his magic back. And he discovered blood magic. So the next time you play Vampire, and you play a House Tremere Vampire, what you're really doing is playing a Traitor Mage. Which is interesting. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. It's already gone a bit longer than most of these. I've probably lost most of you already. If I haven't, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And I'll see you tomorrow.